I think being exposed to so many, I remember Charles Scott, one of my closest friends who was black. I remember Ezra Bright, James Lucky. I go right down the line, and when we'd have some moments, we'd be sitting around after a pickup basketball game, sweating, drinking water out of a hose, and start kind of talking about some things and seeing what these guys actually went through, and I did. In the 5th and 6th grade, when the teachers walked out, my dad took me out of school. He wasn't going to let these substitute teachers, teach me, and that weren't qualified. And it was a no-no for principals to support the teachers in the NEA and the FEA. But he walked out with them. I remember they took his school truck away, which killed us. And told him he'd never work again. And then, of course, about 2 months later, they came on bended knee because he's the only one that could take over the black high school that was being turned into a middle school that had the cachet in the black community. And I remember Edith Page was his secretary that he kept there, and close relationship through the years. But I remember going over to the school the first day when he knew he was going to take over it, and walking around and seeing the conditions that their teachers and students were actually going to school at, and just feeling so naive. But I was able to take that naivety away. My dad said, there'll come a time, I can't tell you how many times I'll reach back for this, well, you'll have to plant your feet and make a stand. You'll know when. You don't want to fight battles all the time, but to win the war, you'll know. And boy, I've had some times through the years, nothing to do with some of the racial issues back there in the 60s, but I know when it's time to, okay, this is something worth fighting for, and you need to fight the fight.
And when the issues arose with Adam in Boston, one of the things you said was about people jumping in about things they don't know. Mm-hmm. And you made the point, even with all you've been through, I'm not black.
Of course. I mean, it's whether, even an umpire. I've never been an umpire behind home plate. I try to keep that in mind. I mean, I'm not trying to lessen it. Yeah. I've never been in a surgery. So doctors, you have to depend on them. I've never been landed a plane, so I'm not going in the cockpit. So I've never been black, so don't try to tell them what they're feeling and what they're experiencing. There's a fine line between, sympathy and also, it's more than that. It's got to be some action. It comes. So, when we had the problem here, and continue to have problems, like every big city does, it's something that you got to understand why there's those emotions. Until you've walked a mile in their shoes, I really don't want to hear you talk about it, what they're feeling, because you don't know.
When you got to, you're playing ball, then you're becoming a manager. Where was your dad during those times? We know what he did with you when you were a kid. When you got to that point, you're on your own now, and you're married, and you're working, and you're a pro, and in the baseball game. What was he saying to you then?
He wasn't one that tooted your horn much to you. I remember he was leading the nation almost in hitting at Mississippi State, and I went 1 for 4, and he would never let me know he was there. He'd just pull up in the truck, and he'd ask my roommate, he goes, "What's wrong with Nat? Is he playing tonight? 1 for 4. Is he running the streets? Is he not sleeping? What's going on?" Oh, he was just 1 for 4. He was tough. He was tough. He was an All-American running back at a small college, Milligan College, and had a little chance to play for the Steelers when he got back but he went on with his life, got his master's degree, but what was your question? I got off thinking about Milligan.
How was he involved with you as you became a
pro? He passed away 2 weeks after I got the job managing the Yankees. And then my son, William Nathaniel IV, was born 2 weeks later. So the old God giveth and taketh away hit me between the eyes. I missed his being wheeled into surgery by 5 minutes, drove all the way from, and that's always haunted me, but he didn't make it off the table, just wanted to improve his life. It was his second heart surgery, and he went for it. And he didn't like the style of life physically he was leading. He was a robust guy. He didn't like being, and he went for a procedure that could help, but it was risky, and he didn't make it. And then 2 weeks later, my son was born. So, the whole Yankee thing, or managing the big leagues, it meant as much to him, me managing Oneonta and Fort Lauderdale and Albany, New York. He kept saying it was all relevant. And he kept telling me, you got an edge on these guys because of the way, where you were brought up and how you were brought up, and your people skills or whatever that may be. If you just continue to treat people like you'd like to be treated, and it gets challenged sometimes. You've had about 2 hours sleep for a week in a row, and it's a day game after a night game, and you got beaten 15 innings, and that's when I reach back for those things. Slow down. There's a way to separate yourself, because everybody goes through this. You need to fight through this, and and what's a challenge for me, Gary, is not going home and letting your guard down and taking it out on them. They don't want to hear it. Whether it's feeding the donkeys or the dog's got a problem at the vet, those things are relevant. They're just as important. And it's a challenge, It's a challenge. That's why I've been married 34 years.